Welcome to Silent Queen's Reckoning. I'm so glad you could join us today. Now let's dive right into the story.
Chapter 1. The woman on the trauma bed grabbed Evelyn Carter's wrist and whispered, "Call my husband." Evelyn had heard that sentence 1,000 times in the emergency room. Wives asked for husbands. Husbands asked for wives. Terrified people reached for the name that made pain feel survivable. So she took the phone gently. The screen lit up. Adrian, with a red heart beside his name. For one frozen second, the beeping monitors, rolling carts, shouted orders, and rain striking the ambulance bay doors all faded into a flat white silence. Evelyn looked at the phone again. Adrian. Her husband, who had kissed her forehead that morning and said he had a late design meeting. Her husband, who still left coffee beside the sink because he knew she forgot breakfast on double shifts. Her husband, whose wedding band had rested against her cheek only 6 hours ago. The patient groaned, pale under the fluorescent lights. Her blonde hair stuck to her temple with sweat. A slim diamond ring glittered on her left hand, too bright against the hospital blanket. "Please," the woman said. "He gets worried if I do not call right away." Evelyn's fingers tightened around the phone, then relaxed with terrifying care. She had held pressure on open wounds. She had told mothers to step back while doctors worked on their children. She had learned how to breathe through panic until her hands stayed steady. She placed the phone on the tray table. "Of course," Evelyn said. Her voice sounded calm enough to belong to someone else. "I'm going to have another nurse make that call." The woman blinked. "Why?" Because Evelyn Carter was many things. A trauma nurse. A wife. A woman who had just watched her marriage bleed open under surgical lights. But she was not careless. She stepped out of Bay 4, walked to the nurse's station, and found Rachel Moore, the charge nurse. Rachel was charting with one hand and holding a protein bar in the other. "I need you to take over the patient in 4, Evelyn said softly. Rachel looked up at her face and stopped chewing. "What happened?" "Conflict of interest," Evelyn said. Rachel did not ask twice. In emergency medicine, that phrase had weight. She handed off her chart, walked into Bay 4, and picked up the patient's phone. Evelyn stood 5 feet away, behind the glass, and watched Rachel press call. Across the room, the phone rang once. Twice. Then Evelyn's own phone vibrated in her scrub pocket. She closed her eyes for half a second. Rachel looked through the glass at her. Evelyn did not move. The patient strained to see. Did he answer? Rachel's expression shifted, just enough. She was a good nurse. She did not stare. She did not gasp. She simply ended the call and said, "I will try again in a minute." Evelyn took her own phone from her pocket. Adrian Pierce. Her husband's name pulsed on the screen as if it had done nothing wrong. She let it ring out. Then she walked into the staff bathroom, locked the door, pressed both hands against the sink, and looked at herself in the mirror. Green eyes. Brown hair twisted into a practical knot. A tired face after 13 hours on her feet. A wedding ring under a strip of medical tape because gloves tore less that way. Her lips parted, but no sound came. A knock hit the door. "Evelyn?" Rachel called. "He is here." Evelyn opened the door. Adrian was standing near Bay 4 in a navy suit that cost more than her monthly rent before they married. Rain darkened the shoulders of his coat. His dark hair was damp, his jaw tight, his eyes scanning the ER with the impatience of a man used to private elevators and people who moved when he frowned. Then he saw Evelyn. For one breath, all color left his face. He recovered fast. Too fast. "Evelyn," he said, lowering his voice. "What are you doing here?" She almost laughed. "I work here." His gaze flicked toward the woman in Bay 4, then back to Evelyn. "This is not what it looks like." Behind him, the patient pushed herself upright despite Rachel's warning. "Adrian?" Her voice shook. "Why is she calling you Adrian like that?" Evelyn looked past him. "What is your name?" The woman swallowed. "Lila Monroe." Adrian's hand lifted, warning Evelyn before she even spoke. "Do not," he said under his breath. "Not here. Not here." Not in the hospital where Evelyn had spent nights saving strangers while he apparently built another life. Not in front of the woman, wearing a ring almost identical to hers. Not under lights bright enough to expose every lie on his face. Lila's eyes moved from Evelyn's taped wedding band to Adrian's left hand. Then her mouth tightened. "Oh," she said. "So this is the wife." There it was. Not shock. Not devastation. Recognition. Evelyn felt something inside her go very still. Adrian turned sharply. "Lila." Lila gave a small, pained laugh. "You said she knew the marriage was over." A nurse rolling a cart slowed. A resident glanced up from a chart. Rachel stepped closer to the bed, professionally blocking Lila from moving too quickly. Adrian's face hardened. Evelyn, go back to your station. The words landed across the ER like a slap. For years, Adrian had praised her strength in private. He told friends his wife was brilliant, compassionate, the kind of woman who could calm a room with one look. But here, in front of his mistress, he spoke to her like staff who had forgotten her place. Evelyn looked at him. I am on duty, she said. You do not assign me anywhere. His jaw flexed. Lila leaned back against the pillow, one hand over her bruised ribs. Even injured, she found room to smile. Adrian told me you were practical, she said. He said you would understand adult arrangements. Evelyn's pulse slowed. That was the strange thing about true humiliation. Past a certain point, it stopped burning. It became clean. Sharp. Useful. Rachel said, Mr. Pierce, I need you to step into the family consult room if you are causing distress to my patient or my staff. My firm designed the East Surgical Wing, Adrian snapped. Evelyn turned her head. He knew the second the words left his mouth that he had made a mistake. The East Surgical Wing had Evelyn's last name carved into a marble wall near the donor entrance. Not Carter. Caldwell. Most people who worked at Mercy General knew that the Caldwell Medical Trust had paid for half the hospital's expansion. Almost nobody knew Evelyn Carter, the quiet trauma nurse who worked nights and packed her lunch in glass containers, was Evelyn Caldwell Carter, the only surviving beneficiary of that trust. Her grandfather had made her promise two things before he died. Keep your money protected, and never let it decide whether people treat you with respect. So Evelyn worked under her married name. She wore simple scrubs. She drove an old gray Subaru. She let Adrian believe the trust was distant family money managed by lawyers, inaccessible and irrelevant. He knew enough to be impressed. He did not know enough to be afraid. Not yet. Evelyn looked at Rachel. I am recusing myself from all care involving Bay 4. Please document it. Already done, Rachel said. Then Evelyn looked at Adrian. Take care of your emergency, she said. I will take care of mine. Adrian reached for her arm. She stepped back before his fingers touched her sleeve. Do not put your hands on me in my hospital, she said. He stared. For the first time that night, Lila stopped smiling. Chapter 2. Evelyn finished her shift. That was what Adrian never understood about her. He mistook discipline for weakness because it was quiet. He thought silence meant she had no weapon, only wounds. She charted 3 discharges, assisted with a chest tube, comforted a frightened teenager whose father had not arrived, and changed out of her scrubs at 7 in the morning with hands, so steady Rachel kept watching her as if she expected Evelyn to shatter. When Evelyn stepped into the staff parking lot, dawn had turned the wet pavement silver. Adrian was waiting beside her Subaru. He looked older in daylight. The clean lines of his expensive coat could not hide the gray exhaustion around his mouth. We need to talk, he said. No, Evelyn replied. You need to explain. I need coffee, a shower, and my lawyer. His eyes narrowed. Do not make this ugly. She stopped with her key halfway to the lock. You brought your mistress into my ER and told me to go back to my station. I panicked. No. She looked straight at him. You performed. His face twitched. He glanced around the parking lot, aware of orderlies, nurses, patients' relatives smoking near the curb. Adrian cared deeply about witnesses. He cared about the angle of a story, the lighting of a room, the social value of looking wounded at the right time. Lila was in an accident, he said quietly. I could not abandon her. Evelyn opened her car door. You abandoned me years ago. Last night I only found the address. He grabbed the top of the door. Evelyn, listen to me. Lila is emotional. She says things. It started after you and I were already struggling. Evelyn turned to him slowly. Struggling? We have barely seen each other. You work nights. You come home exhausted. You wanted space. I wanted a husband who told the truth. He exhaled sharply. It is complicated. It always was with men like Adrian. A lie was never a lie. It was timing, pressure, confusion, a sensitive situation, a difficult season, a misunderstood need. Evelyn slid into the driver's seat. Adrian leaned down. I made mistakes, but you have to think about what we built. The house. The foundation dinner next week. The Meridian Project. There. Not their marriage. Not the wound. The project. Meridian Women's Center was Adrian's obsession. A private hospital and luxury recovery complex on the lakefront, pitched as a sanctuary for women needing surgical aftercare, fertility treatment, and long-term recovery. His firm, Pierce Health Design, had fought for the contract for 2 years. The Caldwell Trust had not signed the final funding release. Evelyn had delayed it because something about the vendor structure felt wrong. Too many new subcontractors. Too many consultant fees. Adrian had brushed off her questions with kisses, then irritation, then cold silence. Now he had said the quiet part first. Evelyn looked at his hand gripping her car door. Let go. He did. When she got home, she did not go to bed. Their house sat in Lincoln Park, all glass, limestone, and Adrian's taste. He had called it their dream house. Later, Evelyn learned how often men said "our" when they meant mine. She showered. She dressed in black trousers and a cream sweater. She made coffee strong enough to hurt. Then she opened the safe in the study. Inside were the documents Adrian thought bored her. Trust binders, property deeds, foundation bylaws, prenuptial agreements, board minutes, conflict disclosures. Evelyn was not a lawyer, but she was a nurse. Nurses understood records, patterns, missing information, the danger of small numbers in the wrong column. She pulled the Meridian file. At 8:12 a.m., she called Miriam Vale, her family attorney. Miriam answered on the second ring. You never call before 9 unless someone is bleeding or lying. Both, Evelyn said. Miriam went silent. Tell me everything. Evelyn did. She did not cry. She gave facts in order. Lila Monroe. Emergency admission. Adrian's arrival. The ring. The phrase adult arrangements. His immediate concern about the foundation dinner and Meridian. Miriam listened without interrupting. When Evelyn finished, Miriam said, Do not confront him again alone. Do not move money by text. Do not access hospital records. Do not mention the patient outside privileged legal context. I know. Good. Now tell me what you have at home. Evelyn opened Adrian's desk. He had always thought she respected his privacy because she was trusting. She had. That was different from being stupid. The first drawer held sketches, pens, a silver lighter he did not use. The second held passports and old cuff links. The third was locked. Evelyn looked at it for a moment, then used the emergency key taped under the center panel. Adrian had shown her that hiding place years ago, when they were still pretending they would grow old together. Inside was a blue folder. On the tab, someone had written Caldwell release sequence. Evelyn's breath left her body slowly. Miriam, she said, I found something. Photograph every page, Miriam said. Do not remove it yet. Page 1 was a timeline. Foundation dinner. Public donor announcement. Spousal alignment statement. Emergency amendment vote. Meridian release. Page 2 listed board members, with notes beside their names. Dr. Helen Cross, sympathetic if patient access emphasized. Martin Bell, pressure through press. Evelyn Carter Pierce, emotional leverage after separation disclosure. Evelyn read that line twice. Emotional leverage after separation disclosure. Page 3 was a draft statement in her name. I, Evelyn Carter Pierce, support my husband Adrian Pierce's leadership of the Meridian Women's Center project and authorize the Caldwell Medical Trust to release the first funding tranche through the proposed vendor schedule. Her signature line waited at the bottom. Empty. For now. Page 4 showed a consultancy agreement for Lila Monroe. Public Relations and Patient Experience Ambassador. Annual fee, $480,000. Evelyn sat very still. The mistress was not a secret on the side. She was in the deal. Chapter 3 by noon, Miriam had a private investigator, a forensic accountant, and a litigation assistant in motion. By 3, Evelyn knew more about her marriage than she had learned in 6 years of sleeping beside Adrian. Lila Monroe had been a boutique wellness influencer with a small following and expensive tastes. 18 months earlier, she began posting from hotel suites, private clinics, and restaurants that required memberships. Her captions were vague. Her jewelry was not. The diamond ring on her hand had been purchased at Bellamy, and Rowe with a corporate card issued to Pierce Health Design. The same month, Adrian created a consulting line item under the Meridian proposal called Patient Lifestyle Integration. The first payment went to Monroe Strategy LLC, Lila's company. The second payment covered a condo overlooking the river. The third covered a Mercedes registered under a leasing company tied to Adrian's office manager. Miriam sent each document to Evelyn with no commentary. She did not need commentary. The facts were loud enough. At 5:41 p.m., Lila texted Evelyn. Evelyn did not know how Lila got her number. She suspected Adrian had given it to her to perform damage control and failed to predict the shape of her performance. The message read, I know last night was awkward. Adrian did not want you hurt. But some marriages are legal arrangements long after the love is gone. Please do not punish him for finally choosing happiness. A photo came next. Lila's left hand resting on Adrian's chest. The ring centered perfectly. Evelyn stared at the image in her kitchen, coffee cold beside her. Then another message arrived. He said you are reasonable. I hope that is true. Meridian matters to him. Do not ruin something beautiful because you feel replaced. Evelyn saved the messages and forwarded them to Miriam. Miriam replied, helpful. Do not answer. So Evelyn did not. She made soup. She watered the basil on the windowsill. She folded laundry that smelled like Adrian's cologne and placed every one of his shirts in a suitcase with the flat calm of a woman preparing an operating room. At 8:03 p.m., Adrian came home. He saw the suitcase first. Then Evelyn at the dining table with the blue folder in front of her. His expression changed so quickly it might have been funny in another life. Where did you get that? He asked. Your locked drawer. That is confidential business material. It has my name forged into a funding statement. Not forged. Drafted. Evelyn looked at him. He swallowed. Drafted for your review, he said. She opened the folder and turned the page toward him. Emotional leverage after separation disclosure. Adrian looked away. Is that what last night was supposed to be? Evelyn asked. You humiliate me with Lila, then offer me a way to look gracious at the foundation dinner if I sign? His silence answered before his mouth did. You were never supposed to see it like that. But I was supposed to live it like that. He stepped closer. Evelyn, the project is real. Meridian will help people. Recovery suites, surgical access, fertility support, trauma care. You care about that. I know you do. Do not hide your theft behind patients. His face flushed. I did not steal anything. You paid your mistress almost $500,000 from a proposed healthcare project. She has public reach. She understands the patient experience. She called herself your wife while lying in my ER. Adrian's mouth tightened. Lila is fragile right now. Evelyn almost smiled. There was the oldest trick. Make the woman who told the truth seem dangerous because the woman who lied might cry. You need to leave, she said. This is my house too. No, Evelyn said. The trust bought it before the marriage. You signed the occupancy agreement. Miriam has already sent notice. His eyes sharpened. Miriam? You called that woman? That woman protected everything my grandfather built from men exactly like you. Adrian laughed once, harsh and humorless. There it is. The Caldwell princess finally comes down from the tower. Evelyn stood. Adrian was taller, broader, practiced at filling rooms. But for the first time, he seemed to realize that size was not the same as power. The Caldwell princess worked a 14-hour shift last night while you performed concern for your mistress, she said. She has cleaned blood off floors you would not step on. She has held strangers while they died because their families were still in traffic. Do not confuse humility with permission. His jaw moved. I loved you, he said. Maybe, Evelyn replied. But you loved access more. The doorbell rang. Adrian turned. 2 men in dark coats stood on the porch. One carried an envelope. Evelyn walked past her husband and opened the door. Mr. Adrian Pierce? The man asked. Adrian did not answer. You have been served. The envelope touched his chest. Divorce petition. Emergency asset preservation order. Notice of trust funding suspension. Adrian looked at Evelyn as if she had struck him. You froze, Meridian? Evelyn picked up the suitcase and placed it beside him. I froze every dollar until the board learns what you tried to build with it. Chapter 4. Adrian did what men like him did when the room stopped obeying. He changed rooms. By morning, he was at Lila's condo, calling board members one by one. By noon, rumors had moved faster than rainwater through the city. Evelyn was unstable. Evelyn was jealous. Evelyn had misunderstood a professional relationship. Evelyn was punishing a healthcare project because her marriage had failed. By 3, a lifestyle blog published a blind item about a nurse heiress having a breakdown after discovering her husband had moved on. Evelyn read it in the hospital cafeteria between bites of a turkey sandwich. Rachel leaned over her shoulder and swore. That is disgusting. Evelyn closed the article. It is useful. Useful? Now we know which side hired a publicist. Rachel watched her carefully. Are you okay? No, Evelyn said. Then she took another bite. But okay is not required for movement. That evening Miriam called. The foundation board wants an emergency session before the dinner. Adrian has requested permission to present his side. Of course he has. He is bringing Lila Monroe as a patient experience consultant. Evelyn looked out the cafeteria window at the ambulance bay lights. He is bringing his mistress to ask my board for my money. Yes. Evelyn gave a small nod to no one. Let him. Miriam paused. That is either brave or cinematic. It is efficient. The emergency session was set for Friday morning in the Caldwell Conference Hall on the hospital's top floor. The foundation dinner would still take place that evening unless the board canceled it. Adrian wanted the dinner. Public pressure helped him. A room full of donors, surgeons, investors, and reporters gave him a stage. He had always loved a stage. Evelyn spent Thursday building a timeline. She did not use Lila's medical chart. She did not mention the diagnosis, injuries, medications, or anything protected by hospital policy. She did not need to. She used her own phone records, her own marriage documents, credit card statements from Pierce Health Design obtained through Discovery, corporate filings, consultancy contracts, the blue folder from Adrian's drawer, photographed in place before Miriam's courier collected it under legal notice. Texts Lila had sent to Evelyn voluntarily. A recording from the house security system where Adrian had admitted the statement was drafted before Evelyn saw it. And one email Adrian accidentally sent to Evelyn 3 weeks earlier because he had typed Ev instead of Evan, his CFO. At the time, Evelyn had assumed it was a routine vendor note. Now she read it properly. If she resists, we frame it as marital emotion interfering with women's healthcare access. Lila can humanize the patient side. Push the board before Evelyn asks Miriam to review sequence. Evelyn printed that email on thick white paper. Then she slept for 4 hours. On Friday, she wore a charcoal suit instead of scrubs. The mirror gave her back a woman Adrian had not met in years, if he had ever met her at all. Her hair was smooth at the nape of her neck. Her face was bare except for concealer under her eyes and a steady rose color on her lips. Her wedding ring was gone. In its place, on her right hand, she wore her grandfather's signet ring. Caldwell. The name looked small in gold. It weighed more than Adrian's promises ever had. When she arrived at the top floor, conversation thinned. Board members stood near the windows with coffee cups, pretending not to watch her. Doctors she had worked beside for years stared as if the nurse from trauma had walked in wearing a crown. Rachel had come as staff representative. She saw Evelyn, smiled once, and lifted her chin. Miriam waited by the door with 2 binders. You look calm, Miriam said. I am not. Good. Calm people are rarely as useful as disciplined, angry ones. The elevator chimed. Adrian stepped out with Lila beside him. Lila's wrist was wrapped, her blonde hair brushed into soft waves, her cream dress chosen to suggest vulnerability without sacrificing expense. The diamond ring remained on her left hand. Adrian wore a black suit and the expression of a man attending his own coronation. Then he saw Evelyn. His eyes dropped to the signet ring. For one brief second, fear crossed his face. Lila noticed it. Her hand tightened around his arm. Evelyn, Adrian said carefully, I did not expect you to attend in person. I work in this building, Evelyn replied. Lila's smile sharpened. As a nurse. Rachel's eyes flashed. Evelyn only looked at Lila. Yes, she said. As a nurse. The conference room doors opened. Dr. Helen Cross, chair of the board, stepped out. Mrs. Carter Pierce, she said, then corrected herself with a glance at Miriam. Miss Caldwell Carter. We are ready. Lila's smile disappeared. Chapter 5. Adrian spoke first. He was good. Evelyn gave him that. He had built a career on making empty space look inevitable. He knew how to stand, when to soften his voice, how to turn his wedding ring toward the light even though his marriage was burning in the room. Meridian Women's Center is bigger than my personal mistakes, he began. Personal mistakes. Evelyn wrote the phrase on her notepad. He described the project in beautiful language. Recovery dignity. Integrated care. Safe spaces. Access for women failed by fragmented systems. Every sentence sounded noble enough to pass through a donor's heart before reaching their brain. Then he lowered his voice. My wife and I are going through a painful private transition. I respect Evelyn deeply, but I cannot allow private emotion to derail a facility that will serve thousands. Several board members shifted. Lila sat beside him with damp eyes. When Adrian said women deserve to be heard, Lila touched his sleeve. When he said shame should never control healthcare, Lila looked down as if carrying sacred pain. When he finished, he placed one hand over his heart. I ask this board to separate a marriage from a mission. It was an excellent line. Someone might have believed it if Evelyn had not brought receipts. Dr. Cross turned to Lila. Ms. Monroe, you requested to speak. Lila rose carefully. Thank you, she said. I am not here to discuss anyone's marriage. A lie in the first sentence. Efficient. I am here because I have been a patient who felt invisible, she continued. Adrian believed women deserved better. He believed I could help communicate that to the public. What happened between us emotionally is private, but his vision is not corrupt because love arrived at an inconvenient time. Evelyn looked at Adrian. Love arrived. Not adultery. Not consultancy payments. Love, apparently, had taken a corporate card, a river condo, and a Mercedes before arriving at the ER in a diamond ring. Lila turned toward the board. I know Evelyn is hurt. I understand that. But hurt people can become dangerous when they have power. There it was. The room changed temperature. Rachel's hands curled into fists under the table. Miriam did not move, but Evelyn saw a small note appear on her legal pad. Defamation. Dr. Cross looked to Evelyn. Ms. Caldwell Carter. Evelyn stood. She did not carry the binder. Miriam placed the first exhibit on the screen. Evelyn looked at every board member before speaking. I am going to be clear. I am not here to litigate heartbreak. I am here to protect a medical trust from fraud. Adrian leaned back slightly. His mistake was thinking she would tremble. The first document appeared. Pierce Health Design Vendor Schedule. Patient Lifestyle Integration. Monroe Strategy LLC. This is a proposed Meridian vendor line, Evelyn said. The consultant is Ms. Monroe's company. The annual fee is $480,000. Lila's face stiffened. Adrian said, that is standard brand outreach. Miriam clicked to the next slide. Corporate filing for Monroe Strategy LLC. Created 12 days before the first Meridian vendor draft. Registered agent. An employee of Pierce Health Design. A board member sat forward. Evelyn continued. The next exhibit is a corporate card statement. Bellamy and Rowe Jewelers. $38,000. Same billing cycle as the Monroe Strategy onboarding invoice. The ring on Lila's finger caught the light. Every eye went to it. Lila slowly lowered her hand. The next exhibit showed the condo lease. The next showed the Mercedes payment. The next showed Adrian's email. If she resists, we frame it as marital emotion interfering with women's healthcare access. Dr. Cross removed her glasses. Adrian's voice cut in. This is taken out of context. Evelyn turned to him. Then give the context. He opened his mouth. No words came out. Evelyn looked back to the board. The Caldwell Medical Trust did not freeze Meridian because my husband had an affair. The trust froze Meridian because the project leadership attempted to route foundation funds through undisclosed entities tied to his affair partner, then planned to pressure me into signing a release by publicly framing my objection as emotional instability. Lila stood too quickly and winced. I did not know about any of that. Miriam clicked once. Lila's text appeared on the screen. Do not ruin something beautiful because you feel replaced. Then another. Adrian says the board only needs your signature long enough to move the first money. After that, you cannot claw it back without looking cruel. Lila stared at the screen. Her lips parted. Adrian turned toward her, furious. You texted her that? The room heard him. Every person in the room heard him. Lila's face went white as she realized he had not denied the content. Only the leak. Evelyn let the silence settle. Then she said, Thank you, Adrian. Rachel looked down quickly, hiding the flash of satisfaction on her face. Dr. Cross's voice was cold. Mr. Pierce, did you or did you not draft a statement in Ms. Caldwell Carter's name authorizing release of the first funding tranche? Adrian straightened. Drafting language for a spouse is not illegal. It is when paired with coercion, non-disclosure, and a conflicted vendor structure, Miriam said. Lila whispered, Adrian. He ignored her. Evelyn looked at the woman who had smiled from a hospital bed and called betrayal an adult arrangement. For the first time, Lila looked young. Not innocent. Just out of depth. Evelyn did not soften. My grandfather created the Caldwell Medical Trust after my grandmother died, waiting for a specialist who was available only to families with better access, she said. This money exists to open doors for patients, not to buy silence for men who mistake women for signatures. The boardroom was completely still. Therefore, Evelyn said, as controlling beneficiary, I am formally withdrawing Caldwell funding from Meridian under Pierce Health Design leadership. I am also requesting an independent audit of every related contract, immediate suspension of vendor negotiations, and referral of suspected financial misconduct to civil counsel. Adrian stood. You cannot do that. Evelyn looked at him. I already did. Chapter 6. The foundation dinner was not cancelled. Evelyn made that decision herself. Adrian had expected her to hide after the boardroom. He thought exposure would exhaust her, that a woman could only survive one public round in a day. He did not understand that Evelyn had spent years walking into rooms where people were already screaming. A gala was easy compared with an emergency room. By 6 in the evening, the Caldwell Hall ballroom glowed with soft gold light. White orchids rose from glass bowls. Donors moved between tables with champagne and carefully managed curiosity. Surgeons in tuxedos spoke with city officials. Reporters waited near the step and repeat, hungry but polished. The plaque for the new East Wing stood near the stage, covered with a navy cloth. Adrian arrived at 6:22 with Lila on his arm. That was either arrogance or desperation. Evelyn suspected both. Lila had changed into a silver gown. Her wrist brace was gone. The diamond remained. She smiled too brightly as cameras turned toward her, but the corners of her mouth trembled. Adrian guided her forward with one hand at her waist, claiming control in the old way. Whispers moved through the room. Is that her? That is the consultant. No, that is the mistress. Where is his wife? Evelyn heard the last question from the side entrance. She waited 3 seconds before walking in. Not because she wanted drama, because timing mattered. The room noticed her in waves. First the staff from Mercy General. Nurses straightened. Doctors blinked. Rachel, standing near the bar in a black dress, smiled like she had been waiting all year. Then the donors. Many had met Evelyn as a quiet board observer, or a nurse, or the woman who always asked whether community clinics had been included in a proposal. Then the reporters. Cameras shifted. Evelyn wore a deep green dress, simple enough to be elegant and severe enough to warn. Her grandfather's signet ring rested on her right hand. Miriam walked beside her. Dr. Cross followed with the board secretary. Adrian saw her and froze. Lila whispered something, but he did not answer. Evelyn crossed the ballroom without looking at either of them. That was the first punishment. Men like Adrian could survive hatred. Hatred still made them central. Being passed over in public cut deeper. At 7 o'clock, Dr. Cross took the stage. Thank you for joining us for the Caldwell Medical Trust annual dinner, she said. Tonight was originally intended to celebrate a funding partnership for the Meridian Women's Center. A murmur rippled. Adrian's shoulders tightened. Dr. Cross continued. After an emergency review, the board has voted to pause that partnership and open an independent audit. The murmur became a wave. Adrian stepped toward the stage. Miriam moved before he reached it. One small step. Legal, calm, immovable. Dr. Cross looked toward Evelyn. Instead, tonight we will honor the original purpose of the Caldwell Trust. Patient access, staff safety, and medical care that cannot be bought by influence or distorted by private misconduct. To speak on behalf of the trust, please welcome its controlling beneficiary, Evelyn Caldwell Carter. For a moment, the room did not react because the sentence needed time to land. Then cameras turned fully. Lila's face emptied. Adrian looked as if the floor had opened under his polished shoes. Evelyn stepped onto the stage. Applause began near the hospital staff tables. It grew. Not thunderous at first. Real applause seldom starts that way. It builds as people understand what they are seeing. The nurse from trauma was not merely the wronged wife. She was the signature. The money. The door Adrian had been trying to force open. Evelyn stood at the microphone and waited until the room quieted. My grandfather used to say that money reveals character because people start speaking to it instead of to you, she said. A faint, uneasy laugh moved through the room. For most of my adult life, I have worked under my married name and served as a trauma nurse at Mercy General. I did that because I wanted to understand the system this trust funds from the floor up, not from a private dining room down. She looked over the crowd, not at Adrian. This week, I was reminded that some people mistake service for smallness. They mistake quiet for ignorance. They mistake a woman in scrubs for someone who can be moved aside while men negotiate over her name. Adrian's mouth tightened. Lila gripped the back of a chair. Evelyn continued. I will not discuss private medical matters. I will not use any patient's vulnerability as a weapon. But I will say this clearly. The Caldwell Medical Trust will never fund a project whose leadership uses patient language to hide conflicted payments, intimidation, or personal deception. A reporter lifted a recorder higher. Tonight, the trust is redirecting $20 million from the paused Meridian release into 3 immediate programs. First, a staff protection fund for nurses and hospital workers facing harassment or retaliation. Second, an emergency care access fund for uninsured women and children. Third, an independent ethics and procurement office with authority outside executive influence. The staff tables erupted first. Then the applause spread. Dr. Cross closed her eyes for one brief second, relieved. Evelyn waited. And finally, she looked directly at Adrian. The people who need care should never be forced to depend on the integrity of someone who only behaves well when watched. Adrian flinched. Lila turned away from the cameras, but there was nowhere to hide in a silver dress under ballroom lights. Chapter 7. Adrian tried to reach Evelyn after the speech. He crossed the room fast, no longer smiling for donors. Lila followed, one hand clutching her small evening bag. Evelyn, he said. Miriam shifted closer. Evelyn lifted a hand. It is fine. It was not fine. Nothing about the night was fine. But she wanted to hear what a man said when all his masks had fallen, and he still thought one might be within reach. Adrian stopped in front of her. You humiliated me, he said. The simplicity of it almost impressed her. You humiliated yourself, Evelyn replied. I provided the lighting. His eyes flashed. Lila said, Evelyn, please. This has gone too far. Evelyn looked at her. Has it? Lila's throat moved. I made mistakes. But Adrian told me the marriage was over. He said you only stayed married for appearances because of the trust. And the ring? Lila's hand closed around it. The consulting fee? Lila's eyes glistened. The text saying the board only needed my signature long enough to move the first money? Lila had no answer. Evelyn's voice stayed soft. You wanted my life to be small enough that you could step over it without looking down. Lila's face crumpled in anger before sadness could arrange itself there. You think you are better than me because you were born rich. No, Evelyn said. I think I am responsible for what my money does. That is the difference between inheritance and appetite. Adrian moved closer. This is not over. I have contracts. I have investors. Miriam handed him an envelope. Not with Caldwell you do, she said. He looked at the papers inside. Notice of funding withdrawal. Audit hold. Spousal asset freeze. Demand for preservation of electronic records. Notice to insurers. His face changed with every page. You contacted my insurers? Your proposal used Caldwell participation to secure risk coverage, Miriam said. Since the underlying representation is now disputed, notice was required. Adrian stared at Evelyn. You are destroying my company. No, she said. I am removing my name from its lies. Lila touched his sleeve. Adrian, what does this mean? He did not look at her. That was the moment she understood her place, and the room watched it happen. Adrian had loved her when she glittered as proof that he could still win. He had loved her when she made Evelyn look replaceable. He had loved her as long as she was useful. Now that she had become evidence, he saw only cost. Lila stepped back as if struck. Adrian, she whispered. He turned on her. Why did you text Evelyn? Why would you put that in writing? Several donors nearby went silent. Lila's eyes widened. Are you blaming me? I told you to stay calm. You told me she was nothing. The sentence sliced through the conversation. There it was. The truth, undressed and ugly. Evelyn did not need to speak. The room had heard enough. Rachel appeared at Evelyn's side with a glass of water. You look like you might need this, she said. Evelyn took it. Thank you. Behind them, Adrian and Lila unraveled in low, furious whispers. Cameras did not get close, but people did not need audio to understand a collapse. Miriam checked her phone. Pierce Health Design's largest investor just requested a call with the board. Also, the city procurement office has asked for Meridian documents. Fast, Evelyn said. Public rooms create public consequences. Evelyn looked across the ballroom. Nurses who had spent years being talked over by donors were standing taller. Young residents whispered to each other. Dr. Cross was speaking with reporters, her posture straight with renewed authority. The night Adrian designed as Evelyn's surrender had become a line in wet cement. Something new would harden here, and it would not have his fingerprints on it. Chapter 8. The collapse of Pierce Health Design did not happen overnight. That would have been too neat. Real consequences arrived like hospital bills and winter storms. One notice at a time. One call not returned. One friendly lunch canceled. One client asking for clarification, then pausing a contract until clarification became an audit. Within a week, Adrian stepped down from Meridian pending review. Within 2 weeks, the firm's CFO resigned and turned over internal communications to counsel. Within a month, the state opened an inquiry into procurement representations attached to healthcare development grants. Adrian's photo disappeared from the firm's website before his name did. That was how companies buried men who had become liabilities. Face first, then title. Lila's fall was louder. Her followers loved luxury until it looked funded by fraud. The wellness brands that had once reposted her morning routines deleted her tagged photos. A podcast canceled her interview. Bellamy and Rowe sent a private demand about the ring after the corporate card dispute became part of the court filing. She returned the diamond through her lawyer. Evelyn did not want it. Miriam arranged for it to be held as evidence, then sold after the financial claims resolved. The proceeds went to the Staff Protection Fund. Rachel called that poetic. Evelyn called it accounting. Adrian called often at first. She did not answer. Then he wrote emails. Long ones. In the first, he apologized for hurting her. In the second, he explained how pressure had changed him. In the third, he accused Miriam of turning Evelyn against him. In the fourth, he said Lila had manipulated him. In the fifth, he asked whether they could meet somewhere private, without lawyers, as two people who had once loved each other. Evelyn forwarded each email to Miriam without response. One rainy Thursday, Adrian came to Mercy General. Not through the ER, where Rachel would have removed him before he cleared the desk. He came through the donor entrance, wearing a gray coat and the exhausted look of a man who had discovered that charm was not legal tender. Evelyn was leaving a staff committee meeting when she saw him near the Caldwell plaque. For a second, memory moved before anger. Adrian in their kitchen, barefoot, making pancakes too dark at the edges. Adrian laughing in bed on a Sunday morning. Adrian asleep on the couch with architectural plans across his chest. Love did not vanish simply because it had been betrayed. Sometimes it remained like a bruise, proof of impact after danger passed. He looked at her. Evelyn. She stopped several feet away. You cannot be here without appointment. I know. I just needed to see you. Need, she thought, had always been his favorite costume. He stepped closer. I lost everything. No, she said. You lost what you used other people to hold. His eyes reddened. I was stupid. I was selfish. But I did love you. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. Maybe you loved how I made you feel about yourself. Maybe you loved standing close to goodness and pretending it was yours. He flinched. I know I cannot fix it, he said. But I need you to know I am sorry. She wanted to believe him, not because he deserved it, but because the woman she had been deserved to hear some version of remorse. The woman who had packed lunches for him. The woman who worked nights and came home to his coffee. The woman who thought quiet loyalty was enough to keep a marriage warm. Evelyn let that woman stand beside her for one breath. Then she released her. Your apology belongs to your conscience, she said. It does not need my supervision. Adrian's mouth trembled. She walked past him. This time, he did not follow. Chapter 9. 6 months later, the East Wing opened under a new program. No champagne tower. No influencer campaign. No private recovery suites priced like hotel rooms. Instead, the Caldwell Access Center took up 2 floors of Mercy General and 3 linked clinics across the city. It provided post-surgical support, trauma counseling, reproductive care referrals, transportation vouchers, and legal advocacy for patients whose medical crises came tangled with unsafe homes, financial control, or workplace retaliation. The Staff Protection Fund handled its first case before the plaque was even unveiled. A nurse in oncology had been threatened by a patient's son with political connections after she reported unsafe behavior. The fund paid for counsel, security review, and time off without forcing her to drain vacation days. When Evelyn heard, she sat alone in her office for a minute and cried. Not because she was sad, because something ugly had been converted into shelter. That mattered. On opening morning, Rachel found Evelyn near the old ambulance bay. You are hiding, Rachel said. Observing. Hiding in heels. Evelyn looked down at her shoes. They are comfortable. They are weapons with straps. Evelyn laughed, and the sound surprised her. It came easier now. Not often, not careless, but real. Dr. Cross approached with a folder. The board approved the community clinic expansion. Already? Unanimous. Rachel lifted both hands. Look at that. Turns out when nobody is secretly paying a mistress, paperwork moves faster. Dr. Cross coughed into her hand. Rachel. Sorry. Hospital voice. Evelyn smiled. Miriam arrived next, carrying 3 phones and no visible patients. Divorce decree is final. The words moved through Evelyn more quietly than she expected. Final. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just a door closing with a firm click. Any surprises? Evelyn asked. Adrian gave up claim to the house, waived spousal support, agreed to the asset settlement, and signed the non-interference clause. Pierce Health Design will restructure without him. Lila settled separately. Evelyn nodded. How do you feel? Rachel asked. Evelyn looked at the ambulance bay doors, opening and closing as the day began. Lighter, she said. Not happy exactly. Just lighter. Miriam's expression softened. That is often better than happy at first. The ceremony began at 10. Evelyn kept her speech short. She spoke about nurses, about patients, about her grandmother, about how access was not charity when dignity was owed. She did not mention Adrian. She did not mention Lila. That absence was not mercy. It was ownership. They no longer had the right to occupy the center of her story. After the ribbon was cut, a young nurse approached her. She could not have been more than 24, with nervous hands and tired eyes. Ms. Carter? Evelyn turned. Evelyn is fine. The nurse swallowed. I was in the ER that night. Evelyn's chest tightened. The nurse rushed on. I just wanted to say, the way you handled it, I think about it sometimes. You did not scream. You did not let him make you small. I had someone in my life who made me feel crazy for asking questions, and after that night I left. Evelyn could not speak immediately. The nurse looked embarrassed. Sorry. That was too much. No, Evelyn said. Her voice was softer than she expected. It was not too much. The nurse nodded, eyes bright, and walked back toward the elevators. Rachel, who had pretended not to listen and failed completely, wiped under one eye. Do not start, Evelyn said. I have allergies. To emotions? Severe. They stood together, watching patients and staff move through the new center. For the first time in months, Evelyn did not feel like a woman standing after impact. She felt like a woman walking forward. Chapter 10 That night, Evelyn went home alone. The house was quieter without Adrian's music, his calls, his suits draped over chairs as if every room existed to receive him. At first, the quiet had frightened her. It made each betrayal echo. Now it felt clean. She changed into soft clothes, made tea, and opened the kitchen window. The basil on the sill had survived another winter. Its leaves leaned toward the city lights with stubborn green faith. Her phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. Do not forget to eat something that is not tea. Evelyn smiled. A message from Miriam followed. Final signed copies attached. Also, stop reading legal documents after midnight like a haunted accountant. Evelyn laughed into the empty kitchen. Then one more message arrived from an unknown number. For a moment, her body remembered fear before her mind could stop it. She opened it. It was from Lila. I am not asking forgiveness. I know I do not deserve a reply. I just wanted to say you were right. I thought your life was small because he told me it was. That was convenient for me. I am sorry for what I chose to believe. Evelyn read the message twice. Then she deleted it. Not because forgiveness was impossible. Because not every apology required a doorway back. She carried her tea to the living room and sat near the window. Across the street, a couple walked under one umbrella, shoulders pressed close. A bus hissed at the corner. Somewhere far off, an ambulance siren rose and faded into the night. Evelyn placed her hand over the spot where her wedding ring had once rested. The skin was smooth now. For a long time, she had believed betrayal broke a person by taking love away. She knew better now. Betrayal tried to rewrite your memory. It told you your tenderness had been foolish, your trust had been weakness, your devotion had been evidence that you were easy to use. That was the cruelest lie. Evelyn had loved honestly. That was not the failure. The failure belonged to the person who saw honesty and searched for a way to profit from it. She thought of the ER that night. Lila's hand gripping her wrist. The phone lighting up. Adrian's voice telling her to go back to her station. The old Evelyn had cracked in that moment, but she had not collapsed. She had stepped back, documented, listened, called the right people, protected what mattered. There were many kinds of power. Adrian had chased the loud ones. Titles, rooms, contracts, applause, a beautiful woman smiling at his side, so the world would know he had won. Evelyn had learned the quieter kind. The power to pause before reacting. The power to leave a hand unopened. The power to own your name so completely that no one could use it as a key without your consent. The next morning, she returned to Mercy General for a 12-hour shift. Rachel saw her tying her hair at the nurse's station and raised an eyebrow. You know you own half the building and can take a vacation, right? Evelyn checked the trauma board. I do not own the patients. That was annoyingly noble. It was accurate. Bay 3 needed discharge instructions. Bay 7 needed labs. A teenager in Bay 2 was pretending not to be scared before stitches. The day moved toward her with all its ordinary demands. Evelyn stepped into the hall. A young doctor hurried past and nearly dropped a chart. "Miss Caldwell," he said, flustered. Evelyn turned. "Nurse Carter is fine." He nodded, relieved. She walked into Bay 2, pulled up a stool, and smiled at the frightened teenager. "Hi, I am Evelyn. I am your nurse today." Outside, the Caldwell Access Center filled with people who would never know the whole story of how it had been saved. They did not need to know. A woman did not have to make pain visible forever just because it had once been public. Sometimes the most powerful ending was not revenge continuing. It was peace refusing to apologize. And Evelyn Carter, nurse, heiress, ex-wife, survivor, finally understood the difference. She had not been replaced. She had been released. If you enjoy stories about betrayal, hidden power, and quiet women who reclaim everything with dignity, subscribe for more emotional revenge stories and powerful identity reversals.